Hey there, everybody. Welcome to our reaction and review for The Bear Season 2, Episode 1. There is a lot of irony in the fact that we are now in the next season of The Bear.
Mhm.
The restaurant is going to be called The Bear, and this episode is titled Beef. The beef is closing. The beef is over, except on Cousin's shirt where it is birth.
Oh, cousin.
I I love Richie. I'm still on my take that Richie is my favorite character on this show.
Richie is really coming around for me as well. I really like him. I mean, Sydney's my favorite character on the show, but I mean, Richie really is like the one person on this show that just can't seem to find his purpose, to feel like he's able to roll with what's going on with the shop, that he just feels lost. And I just want to wrap him in a hug.
we always like to come on here and offer nuanced takes on various shows. And with The Bear, honestly, it's hard because I love this show. I love this show so much. I love a lot of the people. It's hard sometimes to find a lot of, even remotely negative things to say or constructive things to say.
Yeah, I can be critical on this channel. I mean, for me, if I really love a show like The Bear or like whatever we're covering here, Blacklist.
Yeah.
I mean, if you guys are here for our Blacklist stuff, you know this about me. I will absolutely call out problems with a show that I love. I think if you're a real fan of a
Yeah.
show, you're not going to let them get away with nonsense. That's if your fans aren't going to keep you honest, then who's going to keep you honest? But so far with The Bear, I have found nothing. It is just, it
No.
is a 10 out of 10. I love this show.
I there we'll get into it. There's a moment in this episode where I actually found myself choking up, and I did not expect to be choking up at all with it. I mean, maybe it'll turn out we have the same moment, but we'll get into all of this. Before we do, though, be sure to join our Patreon. We have a link in the description below.
Mhm.
Also, we are closing in on 65,000 subscribers here on our YouTube channel. Everyone who has subscribed, we really appreciate it. And if you're thinking about subscribing, why not? We are covering all of The Bear moving into season 2. And whenever the season 3 comes, that it's technically not been renewed, but we all know it's going to be.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's going to be. We really appreciate everyone that has hit that subscribe button. It really has been amazing, like
Yeah.
growing this channel and almost at 65,000. It's amazing to me
Yeah.
still that we're here and you guys are with us. We really appreciate it and it really helps support the channel.
Yeah, it really, really does.
Okay, so what's your moment?
Tina.
Oh, Tina is my moment too. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So there's all these changes that are obviously going on with the shop. They're completely renovating everything. They're going to be changing the menu. Everybody's positions are changing.
Yeah.
And Sydney needs a sous chef. And oh my goodness,
Yeah.
it was just that moment that she came out and was like, Tina, she's all stumbling around it like, we're gonna need a sous chef. And
Yeah.
Tina's like, oh yeah, no problem. I'll get the word out to see. No, I'm asking you. That hug, oh my goodness,
Yeah.
it got me so in my feels. Ow.
It was I didn't expect to get emotional from it because it's not like this show has been on for so many years that I should be invested in Tina as much as I am. It's just that the show does a good job of sort of explaining how much Tina loves to be here in
Yes.
this restaurant, how hard she has worked, and how it.
Yes, and how, just invigorated she's become about
Yeah.
her job. She's been there so long, and Sydney's really the person that gave her that fire, and sorry, gave her the pat on the back to be like, "Hey, you're really good at this.
Yeah.
You're really putting into this place. You're appreciated. You can do even better. Like, I believe in you." And to give her that position, I can't wait to see what Tina does with that.
I just don't think she ever thought she would have this opportunity. I think, being in this industry has probably worn her down
Mhm.
over time. You become jaded, you become cynical, and it's Sydney and Carmi, despite, Carmi's temper problems at times, I think they have awoken her brain to just all these different possibilities, and she's clearly really talented and
Mhm.
she's fun. I think she's going to do a lot with this position, and I think everybody is going to do a lot with this position.
Oh, she's gonna be Sydney's new Jeff.
I know, that is
Oh.
so sweet. But so many things about this episode are so sweet, and yet there's still, like, this underlying darkness that kind of comes through with Carmi. Like, early on, there's something and, I talked a little bit about this in our season 1 reviews,
Mhm.
where Carmi is obviously brilliant as a chef, like, he's really, really good, but does he actually like it? That's that discussion
Mhm.
with Richie and him in this episode. If Carmi doesn't enjoy being a chef, what does he actually enjoy? Like, what does he like in life?
Yeah, and that's part of the weirdness nearer to the end when it's like, "Oh, I guess," him and Sydney being like, "Oh, I guess we can leave early. Oh, okay. What do we do with ourselves now?" And
Yeah,
he goes home and he's just like, "Yeah, I have nothing else."
yeah,
And because there's such a tight timeline on turning these things around, because he made these big promises to Cicero where he's just like, "Yeah, we'll have your money back. We need another $500,000. We don't have enough money with what we found. Oh, by the way, we found your money. We're not giving it back, but
yeah.
we also need more of your money, and we can do this in 18 months." When they really go through it, Sydney, Sugar, and Carmi, and they're like, "Oh, it's going to take us 6 months to even open, and we're going to have banger after banger day to even hit that goal." Like, this isn't a thing that's going to work out. And we see them, three of them come back to the shop and be like, "We got to squeeze this out in 3 months. Is this even possible?"
It's so tricky because Carmi clearly overpromised. I'm not a
He
restaurant
did.
expert, but the idea that you're going to be able to make a hugely successful restaurant in Chicago, a really competitive restaurant place, like, I'm not going to sit here and be like, I'm a Chicago expert because I've been downtown like 3 times, but like, I have seen a lot of restaurants just in that particular area. And I am sure throughout the city, there's already a lot of great eating establishments. You
Mhm,
got to figure out if you can even keep the base you already have.
mhm.
Like, none of these people are big names. Yes, Carmi has like some level of acclaim, but this is the most interesting part of the story to me. It's not about whether or not Carmi and Sydney and Tina can make great food, because we know they can.
Mhm.
It's about, how do you find a way to sell this to other people in the amount of time that you have?
Yes, and this is where I think Richie is going to come into play. I know that we have Sugar in as the project manager to make sure that this all gets off the ground, but
Yeah,
at the beginning of this episode, he really was like having this conversation with Carmi, where Carmi is like, "I don't have time for this. No, I'm going to make time for you." And he's really just like, "I don't have purpose here. Like,
yeah,
yeah, I would help, make a little bit of food or do whatever, around here to help Michael. But like, since things have been changing, you have a purpose. Sydney has a purpose. Tina has a purpose. Marcus has a purpose. Everybody has a job and they're doing their job. And I don't feel like I really have a purpose here anymore." And this is going to be his purpose. He's really good at working the neighborhood.
yeah,
He's really good at working the front, counter, remembering things with people. "How's your dog? Your
yeah,
daughter doing all right?" Like, he remembers everybody and he remembers everything. And people want to feel like that.
yeah,
That you go into a place and people are like, "Hey, how's YouTube going? You doing well with that? I
yeah.
remember you telling me about that. Where are you guys now with it?" It feels really good. And that's one of the reasons that I think Richie is going to play a very big role in being sort of the heartbeat of this place, where the neighborhood sees him as a familiar face, and he sees them as familiar faces, and he's going to build that together.
I think he's really the only person who can get this done, because Carmi's not an altogether social person. I don't think you can put Carmi in a bunch of interviews and it's gonna go all that well. And
Same.
yeah, well, okay. No, see, I'm not anywhere near as good as Richie. I'll put that out there. Like, maybe,
Oh no.
no, I could maybe give a soundbite and that's it. But Richie is really, he has a gift for this. The challenge Richie has is he needs to be good Richie in these moments, as opposed to bad Richie, where he's just screaming at everyone. And so this is what my fear is with it, is that he's gonna fly off the handle at any given moment, especially because he doesn't like change, and there's already like a sea of change around him, and he's just like swimming in it.
And he's so deep in his feelings. I mean, Sydney and him, we saw them briefly walk by each other saying corner, and that's about it.
Yeah.
There's been no apology from Sydney, and I'm not talking about stabbing him in the butt. I'm
Yeah.
talking about that comment that she said about his daughter thinking he's a loser. Like, since she said that, he just hasn't been the same. He's really been inside himself because that might be something that he was worried about or beating himself up about already. And to have somebody from the outside also say it, that's something that he may never recover from, that you can't walk back. And I think for Sydney, she knows that I'm sorry, it's not enough. There isn't, like, it's a start, but you can't walk that back.
And she was clearly out of line. And I'm not saying that Richie didn't do things to provoke her, because he did, but at the same time, there's a line you can't cross. And that was a line, especially for Richie. It's one of the few things he really holds dear to him. And they have to have some sort of emotional reckoning at some point. And that could be the thing that really gets Richie on the right place and the right mental state
Mhm.
to really make the bear successful and make it so that it is a not unbearable place where it has a very hard time to survive. Just wait, there's going to be more of these over the course of this season.
All right.
Now, I'm just also really glad that Sugar has more of a direct role this season. Like, this is one of the bigger problems that I had in season 1. There's like, oh, here is Sugar, who's bad news Sugar, who's just coming in to talk about something terrible that's happening.
Yeah, it's really nice that they've brought her in this way where she's actually going to have a hand in the shop. And she should, because she has, been sort of this co-owner, helper, whatever, with Michael with the shop, and she's really deep in it,
Yeah.
that she should have a more hands-on approach. If this is going to be turning around into something that could actually make money, then she needs to be part of it. She can't just stand back and be like, all the best.
Yeah, it's going to be a situation now where she has to figure out how to get Carmi, Sydney on the same page, how to deal with Richie, and how to actually put together a restaurant with the amount of money that they have. Because even with this extra money that Cicero has now given them and this impossible timeline, all things considered, if you're making an upscale restaurant, this still isn't that much money. And I know it's crazy to say that.
No, I mean, we're not people who are experts in restaurants or
Yeah.
anything, but we've watched enough Kitchen Nightmares to see how many people are like, oh, I've put in, $1 million, $2 million, and I'm still, I'm in the hole, my whole house is in the hole, sort of thing. Like, restaurants are extremely expensive, and to
Yes.
do what they're doing, which is a complete overhaul, it's going to be very expensive. So yeah, I mean, they have like the 300 that they found in the cans. They have an extra 500,000. He still has to pay off debts. I mean, the complete gut of this place, all
Yeah.
new equipment, getting the word out. Like, this is going to be all the food. It's going to be really expensive.
Here is where we haven't watched ahead. So here's where I think this is going. I think they will be able to open the restaurant. I think they will have some success, but I think something terribly wrong is going to happen along the way. Like, there's going to be something that makes this restaurant opening not what they currently think that it is. Because this show, while it has comedic elements and it's technically a comedy, like they've never promised a happy ending for all of these characters. Like, I don't think we should go into this guaranteeing anything.
Yeah, and I think that the conversation with Richie and Carmi at the beginning of this episode is really sort of what's setting it up, where, Richie's like, oh, you've got, being a chef, and it's, fun for you because you're good at it. I think Carmi being like, it's not fun for me. It's just, I'm good at it, is going to be a lot of the theme of this season. That even if it, everything goes his way, and, the shop's successful and everything is wonderful, is he still going to be not having fun and not feeling good about it? Is there a way for him to have a successful shop where he doesn't feel like dirt at the end of the day?
I'm worried about it. I'm very, very worried about it. I know we have a long way to go in season 2. Maybe things will come around. I'm trying to be hopeful here.
Okay, before we wrap this video up, we gotta talk about the beginning of this with Marcus, where it looks like he's taking care of either his mom or his grandma. I couldn't really get a good look, but I mean, it does give us this look into his life away from the shop and everything that is going on in his home life. And while we mostly get stuff in the shop, it has been nice. Like we had a little bit last season where we saw Sydney, and Marcus, where Marcus was over at Sydney's place and they were eating food and talking. It's nice to sometimes get a little bit away from the shop,
Yeah.
but it sucks that it's in this kind of way to show us that Marcus really has some hard things going on at home.
It's important. It's important for us to get to know these other characters better. And
Yeah.
I think this explains further why Marcus wants to do as well as he does at the job. Like we saw him sleeping at the beef in season 1, and this gives a little bit more context. I wouldn't be surprised if we got a couple little looks here and there moving forward. Like
Mhm.
with Tina, we saw her have her impromptu bring her son to work day
Yeah.
back in like episode 7 of last season. And I want to see a little bit more of that. This isn't a show with extremely long episodes. It shouldn't become that. But I think if you
Mhm.
can sort of sprinkle in some of this for a lot of the main characters, it just gives us more depth. And that's one of the ways that the Bear it's going to go on for at least a few more seasons. I don't think it's going to be around forever, but I think there's a lot more story that can be told.
Oh, for sure.
All right, well, we will tie everything together now, but be sure to hit that subscribe button as we are closing in on 65,000. Thank you to everyone who has supported us, and thank you to everyone who has supported us on Patreon, and we will see you here next time.